The first transmission arrived on a quiet Tuesday morning in Geneva, buried deep within a seemingly innocuous data packet that passed through multiple encrypted channels. Most would have dismissed it as another piece of complex digital noise, but not Dr. Marcus Chen. The schematics materialized on his holographic display with an almost seductive complexity. Quantum entanglement circuits intertwined with propulsion systems that defied current human understanding, their mathematical elegance speaking to something far beyond terrestrial engineering. Each line of the blueprint seemed to whisper promises of technological transcendence. In the United Global Research Institute's secure facility, Chen leaned back, his dark eyes scanning the intricate design. 37 years of scientific expertise had taught him that nothing this perfect arrived without strings attached. The blueprints for faster-than-light travel were too clean, too precise, like a perfectly baited hook waiting for an unsuspecting fish. Across the global scientific community, excitement erupted. Governments and research institutions scrambled to analyze the unexpected gift. Theoretical physicists argued late into the night about the implications. Some saw it as humanity's greatest technological leap. Others, like Chen, remained cautiously skeptical. The Exarillion Imperium watched and waited. Their deep space monitoring stations tracked every digital ripple, every scientific discussion, every moment of human excitement. The trap had been meticulously designed over centuries of careful observation. Humanity's greatest weakness, its insatiable curiosity and technological ambition, was about to become its ultimate vulnerability. The leaked schematics contained multiple layers of sophistication. On the surface, they appeared to be revolutionary designs for faster-than-light travel and quantum energy generation. Embedded within their complex mathematical frameworks were subtle vulnerabilities, microscopic backdoors that would allow complete systemic infiltration once implemented. Dr. Elena Rodriguez, Chen's longtime colleague and head of the Institute's Xenotechnology Division, approached his workstation. Her reflection appeared ghost-like in the holographic display, her expression a mixture of excitement and profound concern. "Marcus," she said quietly, "these designs, they're too perfect." Chen nodded, his fingers tracing the holographic lines. "Exactly. No technological breakthrough comes without context. Someone wants something from us." The global scientific community was already mobilizing. Research teams in Beijing, Silicon Valley, Mumbai, and Berlin began parallel investigations. Governments allocated unprecedented funding. Military strategists started analyzing potential technological applications. The entire human civilization seemed to lean forward, collectively holding its breath. What they didn't realize was that each moment of excitement, each burst of research, each line of code analyzed, was precisely what the Exarillions wanted. The trap was not just technological. It was psychological. By offering humanity a glimpse of technological transcendence, the Exarillions knew they could manipulate an entire species' most fundamental drives, the desire to explore, to understand, to advance. Dr. Chen continued studying the schematics, a subtle smile forming at the corner of his mouth. Something was off, and he was going to find out exactly what. Little did the Exarillions know that the most dangerous species in the galaxy was about to receive their carefully laid trap and prepare to spring it back. Within 3 weeks of the initial transmission, the world had transformed. Research facilities that once operated in isolated silos now worked in unprecedented global collaboration. The quantum propulsion schematics had become the ultimate scientific catalyst, breaking down international boundaries and institutional rivalries with remarkable speed. Dr. Chen's team at the United Global Research Institute established a distributed network of the world's top computational centers. Supercomputers in Tokyo, Bangalore, Cambridge, and Silicon Valley worked in synchronized harmony, each processing fragments of the alien blueprints. The computational load was immense. Each circuit diagram seemed to contain nested layers of complexity that defied traditional analysis. Dr. Elena Rodriguez managed the global research coordination. Her background in systems analysis made her uniquely suited to oversee the project. she noticed something most others missed: the way the schematics seemed to subtly guide researcher attention, creating invisible pathways of investigation that felt organic but were meticulously constructed. At CERN's Advanced Simulation Center, Dr. Hiroshi Nakamura ran the first comprehensive quantum simulation of the propulsion system. The results were breathtaking. Theoretically, the design suggested faster-than-light travel was not just possible, but potentially achievable within a decade. Energy requirements that would have previously seemed impossible were reduced by several orders of magnitude. "It's like someone handed us the Rosetta Stone of interstellar travel," Nakamura told a packed international press conference. His enthusiasm was infectious, amplified by global media desperate for a narrative of hope and technological breakthrough. What none of them realized was how perfectly the Exarillians understood human psychology. Each breakthrough, each moment of excitement, was precisely calculated. The alien designers had studied humanity's technological evolution for centuries, understanding exactly how to trigger their most fundamental drives of curiosity and ambition. Marcus Chen worked differently. While others celebrated, he dissected. His team created isolated simulation environments, testing each component of the schematics in completely sealed computational spaces. They developed custom quantum firewalls, creating digital clean rooms that would prevent any potential external contamination. "We're not just analyzing technology," Chen explained to his core team during a late-night strategy session. "We're dealing with a potential weapon disguised as a gift." The medical research teams were equally entranced. Embedded within the propulsion schematics were hints of revolutionary medical technologies. Quantum-level cellular regeneration algorithms suggested treatments for diseases that had plagued humanity for centuries. Cancer, neurological disorders, genetic mutations, all seemed potentially solvable with these new theoretical frameworks. Global funding for the project exploded. Governments and private corporations committed unprecedented resources. The United Nations established the Quantum Horizon Initiative, a global research program designed to accelerate the implementation of the alien technologies. Billions of dollars, thousands of the world's brightest minds, and the collective hope of an entire species were now fully invested in understanding these mysterious schematics. The Exarillion monitoring stations recorded every moment, every calculation, every burst of human excitement. Their trap was working perfectly, or so they believed. What they couldn't see was the growing suspicion in Dr. Chen's eyes, a mathematical intuition that something wasn't quite right. Humanity was about to prove, once again, that its greatest strength wasn't in blind acceptance, but in its capacity to question everything. The breakthrough came on a rain-soaked Wednesday in Geneva, in the depths of the United Global Research Institute's most secure laboratory. Dr. Marcus Chen's team had been working for weeks, systematically deconstructing the alien schematics using an approach that was equal parts scientific rigor and intuitive genius. Dr. Aisha Khalid, the team's quantum cryptography expert, was the first to notice the anomaly. Her fingers danced across multiple holographic displays, tracing complex algorithmic patterns that seemed to shift and change under close inspection. "It's not just a blueprint," she muttered, her voice cutting through the tense silence of the lab. "It's a living system." Chen approached, studying the intricate digital construct. What appeared to be a straightforward quantum propulsion design was actually a sophisticated neural network, one that adapted and responded to the very act of its own investigation. Each computational probe they made subtly altered the schematic's internal structure, creating what looked like natural technological evolution, but was, in fact, a carefully constructed misdirection. "They're watching us," Chen said quietly. "Every calculation, every simulation. We're not just analyzing the technology. We're being analyzed." The implications were chilling. The Exarillion trap was far more sophisticated than anyone had imagined. The schematics weren't just a potential technological gift. They were a comprehensive surveillance and infiltration mechanism designed to map human technological capabilities at the most fundamental level. Dr. Elena Rodriguez brought in a team of forensic data analysts and synopsychologists. Their job was to understand the deeper motivations behind the alien transmission. What emerged was a terrifying picture of long-term strategic manipulation. The quantum propulsion designs contained multiple layers of embedded code, each layer more subtle than the last. Some were designed to create vulnerabilities in human computational systems. Others were psychological triggers, crafted to guide human research along specific pathways. It was technological warfare at its most insidious, a trap so complex that most of humanity would never even recognize its existence. They'd been studying us for centuries, Rodriguez explained during an emergency briefing to global scientific and military leaders. These schematics are the culmination of a generations-long plan to understand and ultimately control human technological development. Chen's team developed a counter-strategy. Instead of rejecting the alien technology outright, they would use the schematics against their creators. They began constructing isolated computational environments, digital clean rooms where they could safely dissect the alien designs without risking broader systemic contamination. Each breakthrough was carefully documented, each vulnerability mapped with surgical precision. The team created what they called adaptive firewalls, computational systems that could not just defend against the alien infiltration, but actively learn from it. What the Xyrillians didn't understand was humanity's unique approach to technological challenge. Where other species might have collapsed under the weight of such a comprehensive trap, humans saw an opportunity. Every layer of deception became a potential weapon, every hidden vulnerability a point of strategic advantage. As the rain continued to fall outside, Dr. Chen looked up from his workstation, a subtle smile forming. The trap was sophisticated, but humanity was about to show the Xyrillians that they had no idea what they were dealing with. The real game was just beginning. The counter-strategy emerged not from a single moment of brilliance, but from a carefully orchestrated dance of human ingenuity. Dr. Marcus Chen's team had transformed the alien trap into something far more dangerous, a Trojan horse of unprecedented complexity. They began by creating what they called adaptive mimic systems, computational environments that could perfectly simulate human technological exploration while simultaneously gathering intelligence and creating sophisticated countermeasures. To the Xyrillian monitoring systems, these systems would appear as genuine human research, complete with false flags, manufactured breakthroughs, and carefully constructed technological dead ends. Dr. Aisha Khalid had developed a revolutionary approach to digital misdirection. Each simulated research pathway contained layers of information that seemed genuine but were actually intricate traps. When Xyrillian systems attempted to extract or analyze the data, they would instead be fed increasingly complex and ultimately misleading technological narratives. "We're not just defending," Chen explained during a top-secret briefing. "We're actively hunting." The global network of research facilities became a complex web of strategic deception. In Tokyo, a team of quantum physicists published seemingly breakthrough research that was, in reality, a carefully constructed digital lure. In Silicon Valley, advanced computational models appeared to validate the alien schematics while simultaneously creating invisible backdoors. Dr. Elena Rodriguez managed the psychological warfare aspect of the operation. She understood that the Xyrillians had spent centuries studying human behavior, but they had fundamentally misunderstood humanity's core strength, its ability to adapt, to turn weakness into strength. Military strategists worked alongside scientific teams, developing a comprehensive approach that blended technological innovation with strategic misdirection. Every piece of false information was meticulously crafted, every simulated research pathway designed to lead the Xyrillians deeper into a maze of their own making. The first signs of success came subtly. Xyrillian monitoring systems began to show increasing confusion. The data streams they had expected, clean, predictable pathways of human technological exploration, became increasingly erratic. What appeared to be technological progress was actually an elaborate trap, with each layer of analysis pulling the alien observers deeper into a constructed narrative. Chen's team had essentially created a digital ecosystem that could think, adapt, and misdirect. It was more than a defense mechanism. It was an active hunting system designed to probe and exploit Exarillion technological vulnerabilities. "They believe they're watching us," Rodriguez said during a strategy meeting. "In reality, we're watching them." Quantum computing centers around the world worked in silent coordination. What appeared to be standard research was actually a global effort to understand and ultimately subvert the alien technological infrastructure. Each simulation, each computational model, was a potential weapon. The Exarillions had designed their trap with surgical precision, believing they understood humanity's technological limitations. They had studied human history, human conflicts, human technological development. But they had missed something fundamental: the human capacity to turn any challenge into an opportunity. As the first phase of their counter-strategy took shape, Dr. Chen looked at the holographic displays tracking their progress. The alien trap was about to become something its creators had never anticipated. A weapon perfectly designed to destroy humanity was being transformed into humanity's ultimate defense, and potentially its most powerful offensive tool. The moment of cascade began with a whisper, not a roar. Deep within the Exarillion Central Command Network, the first algorithmic anomalies appeared, microscopic perturbations that seemed inconsequential at first. Dr. Marcus Chen watched the global monitoring systems, his fingers hovering over holographic controls that represented humanity's most sophisticated technological weapon. Dr. Aisha Khalid's adaptive mimic systems had performed beyond their most optimistic projections. What the Exarillions believed was a straightforward technological investigation was actually a meticulously crafted viral intelligence, spreading through their most secure networks like a digital phantom. The Exarillion monitoring stations first registered the anomalies as minor computational errors. Their centralized system, designed with centuries of technological refinement, initially interpreted the intrusions as standard data noise. Each defensive algorithm they deployed became another vector of penetration, another pathway for the human-designed exploit. "It's not about breaking through," Chen explained to his core team. "It's about becoming part of their system." The exploit was biological in its complexity, a technological organism that could adapt, learn, and propagate. Unlike traditional computer viruses, this was a living system of information, capable of understanding and manipulating the Exarillion computational infrastructure from within. Global research centers watched in silent anticipation. In Tokyo, quantum computing clusters tracked the spread. In Cambridge, xenotechnology experts analyzed every microsecond of the infiltration. In Silicon Valley, computational biologists marveled at the organic nature of the technological assault. The first major system failure occurred in the Exarillion outer colonies. Communication networks suddenly became unreliable. Military coordination systems began to fragment. What appeared to be isolated incidents were actually the first visible signs of a comprehensive systemic collapse. Dr. Elena Rodriguez managed the global response, ensuring that no trace of human involvement could be detected. Every action was calculated, every data point considered. The Exarillions were being dismantled by a weapon they couldn't even comprehend, a technological assault that was simultaneously everywhere and nowhere. Quantum entanglement circuits, originally part of the alien schematics, became the primary transmission mechanism. The very technology intended to be humanity's trap was now being used to completely deconstruct the Exarillion technological infrastructure. "We're not destroying their technology," Chen muttered, watching the cascading system failures. "We're reprogramming their entire civilization." The exploit moved with terrifying precision. Military communication networks went dark. Planetary defense systems began to misinterpret their own threat assessments. Entire colonial administrative networks collapsed. Their internal logic turned against themselves. What made the assault truly devastating was its psychological component. The Exarillions had spent centuries believing they understood humanity. that they could predict and control human technological development. Now, they were witnessing a form of technological warfare that defied every computational model they possessed. Each defensive mechanism became another point of vulnerability. Each attempt to isolate the spread only accelerated the systemic collapse. The Exarillion technological infrastructure, once considered the most sophisticated in the known galaxy, was being dismantled from within. As the first major system collapses began to cascade, Dr. Chen allowed himself a subtle smile. The trap was no longer theirs. It had become humanity's most powerful weapon. The game had changed, and humanity was just getting started. The Exarillion High Council convened in their most secure chamber, a massive crystalline structure orbiting their home world of Xerax Prime. What had begun as a routine emergency session quickly devolved into technological chaos beyond their comprehension. High Coordinator Zarek, the eldest and most respected member of the council, watched in mounting horror as their communication networks disintegrated. The adaptive human exploit moved through their systems like a sentient virus, anticipating and neutralizing every defensive measure faster than they could conceptualize. "This is impossible," whispered Counselor Linera, her multi-jointed appendages trembling over failing holographic displays. "No species can penetrate our systems like this." But humanity had done exactly that. The exploit was more than a simple technological attack. It was a complete deconstruction of Exarillion technological and social infrastructure. Their centralized command structure, once considered the pinnacle of galactic organizational design, became their greatest vulnerability. Each attempt to isolate the breach only accelerated the systemic collapse. Dr. Marcus Chen watched from Earth, coordinating with a global team that operated with surgical precision. The Exarillion technological ecosystem was being dismantled not through brute force, but through an almost elegant reprogramming of its fundamental logic. Planetary defense networks began to fail spectacularly. Military communication channels dissolved into meaningless static. Administrative systems turned against themselves, generating contradictory orders that paralyzed the entire Exarillion military bureaucratic complex. What made the assault truly terrifying was its psychological component. The humans weren't just attacking technology. They were systematically destroying the Exarillions' fundamental understanding of technological superiority. On Xerax Prime's surface, entire cities experienced cascading system failures. Automated infrastructure ground to a halt. Transportation networks collapsed. Communication became impossible. The Exarillions watched in real time as their civilization was being unraveled from within. Dr. Elena Rodriguez managed the global human response, ensuring that no direct human fingerprint could be detected. Every action was calculated, every potential consequence mapped and anticipated. "We're not destroying them," Chen explained during a classified briefing. "We're revealing the fundamental weakness of their technological philosophy." The Exarillion technological approach had always been based on centralization and rigid control. Humanity's exploit targeted this exact vulnerability, creating a system that could adapt, learn, and redirect with impossible speed. Where Exarillion technology was a monument, human technology was a living organism. High Coordinator Zarek finally understood the true nature of their defeat. The technological schematics they had so carefully crafted, intended to be the ultimate trap for humanity, had become the instrument of their own destruction. Quantum communication networks collapsed. Interstellar navigation systems became random noise. Military coordination dissolved into computational gibberish. The once mighty Exarillion Imperium was being dismantled with surgical precision, its own technological sophistication turned against it. "How?" Zarek finally asked, though no one remained to answer. How could they understand us so completely? The answer was simple, though the Exarillions would never comprehend it. Humanity's greatest strength had always been its capacity to adapt, to turn weakness into strength, to see opportunity where others saw only limitation. As the Exarillion civilization began its final, catastrophic descent, humanity watched, not with triumph, but with a cold, calculated understanding that this was merely the beginning. The negotiation chamber was unlike any diplomatic space in galactic history. Representatives from the fractured Cerulean Imperium sat across from a small human delegation. The power dynamics fundamentally altered in ways no one could have anticipated. Dr. Elena Rodriguez led the human team, her presence both calm and impossibly intimidating. Behind her, a holographic display quietly demonstrated the complete technological deconstruction of the Cerulean civilization, not as a threat, but as an undeniable fact. High Coordinator Zarek, now the last surviving member of the Cerulean High Council, looked diminished. The once proud alien barely resembled the powerful leader who had orchestrated the original trap. His multiple appendages moved hesitantly, each motion a testament to the complete psychological breakdown of their civilization. "You didn't just defeat us," Zarek said, his universal translator rendering his words with a mix of defeat and grudging respect. "You fundamentally changed the nature of technological warfare." Dr. Marcus Chen, seated to Rodriguez's right, offered no dramatic speech. His silence was more powerful than any words. The Ceruleans had spent centuries studying humanity, believing they understood every nuance of human behavior. Now they realized how completely they had misunderstood. The negotiations were not about conquest or subjugation. They were about fundamental transformation. Rodriguez outlined the terms with surgical precision. The Cerulean Imperium would be dismantled, but not destroyed. Their technological infrastructure would be rebuilt, not by humans, but with human guidance. Subjugated species within their former empire would be granted autonomy. The centralized control that had defined Cerulean civilization would be completely restructured. "You designed a trap," Rodriguez explained, "believing you could control the most fundamental human drives. Instead, you revealed our greatest strength." The holographic displays showed the cascading effects of the technological exploit. It wasn't just a military victory. It was a complete reimagining of technological and social organization. Where the Ceruleans had seen rigid control, humans saw adaptive potential. Zarek understood now the true nature of their defeat. Humanity hadn't just won a war, they had exposed a fundamental philosophical flaw in Cerulean civilization. The ability to adapt, to transform, to see opportunity in apparent chaos. These were not weaknesses, but the most powerful form of intelligence. Global research centers watched the negotiations. Scientists, military strategists, and diplomats understood that this was more than a simple resolution of conflict. This was a fundamental restructuring of galactic power dynamics. The terms were surprisingly compassionate. The Ceruleans would retain their cultural identity, but their technological and political systems would be completely reimagined. Assistance would be provided. Opportunities for rebuilding would be created. It was less a punishment and more a radical form of technological rehabilitation. "We're not interested in revenge," Chen finally spoke, his words cutting through the diplomatic tension. "We're interested in potential." As the negotiations continued, it became clear that the trap originally set by the Ceruleans had been transformed into something entirely unexpected. Humanity had not just defended itself, it had created an opportunity for fundamental galactic transformation. The most dangerous weapon was not technology, but the capacity to understand, adapt, and reimagine possibility. And humanity was just getting started. 5 years after the technological dismantling of the Cerulean Imperium, the galaxy had become unrecognizable. Dr. Marcus Chen stood on the observation deck of the United Galactic Research Station, watching a constellation of reconstructed civilizations spread across the star map. The transformation was more profound than anyone could have anticipated. Dozens of species previously subjugated by the Cerulean Imperium now collaborated in ways that defied traditional galactic political structures. What had begun as a defensive action had become a fundamental reimagining of interstellar cooperation. Dr. Elena Rodriguez's approach, her datapad displaying the latest collaborative research initiatives. The technological schematics that were once a trap had become the foundation of a new galactic understanding. Species that had been enemies for centuries now worked together on projects that would have seemed impossible just a decade earlier. It was never about defeating them, Rodriguez said, her eyes tracking the holographic display. It was about showing them a different way of existing. The Cerulean civilization had not been destroyed, but fundamentally restructured. Their centralized control systems had been replaced with adaptive networks that emphasized collaboration over domination. Research centers that were once military installations now became hubs of scientific and cultural exchange. High Coordinator Zarek, now serving as a cultural liaison, had become an unlikely advocate for the new galactic order. The once proud ruler had undergone a transformation as profound as the civilization he once led. His species was learning what humanity had always understood, that true strength lies in adaptability, not rigidity. Global human research centers continued to push technological boundaries. The exploit that had dismantled the Cerulean Imperium was now studied as a breakthrough in adaptive computational systems. Universities across Earth and its colonies offered entire academic programs dedicated to understanding the philosophical and technological principles that had made their survival possible. Chen reflected on the journey. The trap had been sophisticated, a multi-generational plan designed to completely neutralize human potential. Instead, it had become the instrument of the Ceruleans' own transformation. "We didn't just survive," Chen told a group of young researchers during a lecture. "We demonstrated that technological superiority is about more than power. It's about potential." The star map continued to shift. New collaborative networks emerged. Species that had been isolated for millennia now shared research, cultural exchanges, and collaborative technological initiatives. The rigid hierarchies of the past were being replaced by something more fluid, more dynamic. Dr. Rodriguez's datapad chirped. Another breakthrough in quantum communication technologies, a collaboration between human researchers and former Cerulean scientists. The very technology designed to be a trap had become a bridge between civilizations. As Chen watched the holographic displays, he understood that the true victory was not in defeating an enemy, but in creating possibilities that no one had previously imagined. The trap was sprung, but not in the way the Ceruleans had planned. Humanity had turned a potential destruction into an opportunity for galactic transformation. And they were just getting started.